So 1,199,188,800-ish. Anyone know what that is? That's how many seconds the ONS reckons I've got left to live, roughly. And it works out about 38 years, but I think I prefer anything with a billion in it. It sounds a bit longer, doesn't it? And I was thinking about that. Well, how am I going to divvy up that time? How am I going to spend my billion or so seconds of life? And, well, straight off the bat, I lose about a third of it being temporarily unconscious, which seems kind of inefficient, doesn't it? And in theory, we can replace some of that by meditation, but A, I'm rubbish at meditation, and B, it's still kind of not doing anything by definition. So what else do we do? A lot of working. If I work about 8 hours a day and I retire when I'm about 65, or halfway to death, as I now like to think of it, then that's going to fill up another big chunk of that pie. And then there's all the working we do at home as well, the non-paid work that we do, driving kids around, doing jobs, stuff like that. So I'm going to spend over half of my remaining seconds either working or sleeping. Basically, I'm a Roomba, is what I've figured out. But unlike a Roomba, I get to go on holiday. And holidays are great. But what do we do on holiday? Well, we go and see the sights. We choose our favourite of the local lagers, because you always have to have a favourite of the local lagers, right? But what else? Well, I'm left with about 500 million seconds, which I get to choose how I spend my time. I can spend it chatting to friends, drinking cups of tea, animating countdown timers in PowerPoint. It's really up to me how I spend that time. And we might feel like we haven't got very long. It's, life is short, we say. Seneca said, life is long enough if you know how to use it. And his point was that actually we waste a lot of the time we're given. And it's true, isn't it? We're all conscious of social media and all these things. But at the same time, we can burn ourselves out, can't we? We can fill up that time being productive, being busy, doing stuff, worrying about our to-do list, worrying about, are we getting enough done? Does it really matter? So Seneca's advice, I think, is quite helpful. He says, live each day as if it's your last, which is probably quite good if you are a Stoic. But for me, I just end up eating a lot of donuts, drinking a lot of very expensive beer I can't really afford, and neither of those things is going to help with that timer. So some more useful advice from Seneca is to learn to say no more, look after our time, figure out the things that really matter, and spend our time doing them. And I don't say no enough. I know that's true of me. I say yes to Richard when he says, do you want to come and do a talk? I get to the point. Another word I probably do say too much, actually, is later. It's procrastination, putting off the things I should be doing. And the reason I think we do this is our brains are so good at imagining how great that future world is going to be, we never quite get around to doing it. But there is hope. So Richard Adams, who wrote Watership Down, didn't publish that until he was in his 50s. So there is hope for us late bloomers. There is still time to write that novel if we crack on with it. And I think the best way of doing that is a system, something along the lines of 135. So the idea of 135 is that you should always be spending a couple of hours a day on one big project, something that really matters to you. And then you've got time for 3 bits and pieces and 5 little maintenance jobs, things like paying your credit card bill, whatever. And it's the old metaphor of the jar that we fill up. So if you put in the big stones first, there's always room for pebbles. And then after you put the pebbles in, there's always room to tip in sand at the top. But if we start with the sand, then the jar's full before we get any of the stones in. This is one of my favourite bits of advice that I genuinely cannot remember who I got this from, but it's brilliant. If it matters, do it every day. If it doesn't matter, don't do it at all. I think that's how you get good at anything, doing things daily. So sage advice, also always quote your sources. That's the other really important bit of advice. But yeah, I think it's very easy to burn ourselves out trying to do good things. That point about burnout is really, really important, isn't it? We run on that sort of productivity mill, and we worry about our to-do list, and we worry about what we're getting done. So the other branch of self-help that I think we need to learn from and reflect on is this idea of mindfulness. Really like this quote from Alan Watts. In each present experience, you're only aware of that experience. And I think that's a really profound idea, that at least a big chunk of that 500 million seconds, I want to spend relaxing. It doesn't mean lying down. It might mean, for me, it's climbing. Active relaxation, something that turns your mind off and lets you chill out. We've got to sleep, we've got to work, but we get to choose how we spend the rest of the time sleeping, relaxing or actively relaxing. The one thing I'm determined, though, is I want to be a little less Roomba.